All right, we're on air. It is Thursday, July 25th, and Hangouts is telling me that Hangouts is going away on August 1st, although the last thing I read said it wasn't going away till October. So we're going to need to figure out another suitable meeting alternative pretty soon. I tried the Meet thing one time, but it's a one-way, not Meet. I don't know what, they had like some kind of webcam alternative, I forget, but it was a one-way broadcast. It wasn't a meeting. So maybe we should look into other options. So if anyone has anything that they know they use that integrates with YouTube or otherwise posts videos online afterwards, we should look into getting those set up for Backdrop.
So Hangouts is being deprecated, you said?
Yeah, it says on August 1st. They're not going to have it anymore.
And it's not being replaced with something equivalent? Like I
No.
thought that Meet was that.
It's being replaced with webcam, which is a one-way live broadcast. It does not allow for more than one person to talk to each other.
What about Meet?
So Meet does not have live broadcast abilities, as far as I'm aware. Maybe if there's like a upgrade plan, or if you paid the money, it would.
Yep.
But so far, I've tried all the things that Google offers, and none of them seem comparable to Hangouts. So.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. Today's meeting is supposed to be talking about outreach. I guess meetings are relevant, right? That's outreach.
Yeah.
And I know you guys had a meeting 2 weeks ago when I wasn't here. I don't know if there's anything in the agenda that needs to be discussed or talked about with more urgency than anything else. I was having a couple of thoughts when I was looking over it. One of them is that we have a bunch of content for the blog pre-written, all of the interviews for our community spotlights. And I don't know if anyone's been watching the blog to see if any content is going out regularly or not. But maybe what we could do is preload all of that content into notes with auto schedule dates. And then that way we wouldn't need to watch it to see what was happening. And then if we did get new people writing new blog posts, we could slide them around the ones that are already scheduled, if that makes sense.
We exceeded the 1,000 installation threshold this week or last week, was it? So maybe that's worth a newsletter.
Yeah,
something.
That's great.
Repeat for me, I didn't quite understand. We have blog posts that those are ready to go, and did you say they're scheduled or they're?
No, they're written already. They're just not, they're in like Google Docs or something. They're not on the website.
Okay.
So we would need to put them into the website and schedule them using Scheduler.
Right.
I was thinking like once every 2 weeks, I would take them from the Google Doc and put them on the website, because when we first started talking about it, we didn't have Scheduler. So now that we have Scheduler, I'm like, wait, we have a tool for this. Because I haven't been paying attention to blogs on the website, and that's exactly what it's for, so you don't have to pay attention to it.
Right.
But yeah, I think we've got a issue for the community spotlight. I think there's a comment on the last post in the issue that has a link to the location of these things. I'll check that out afterwards and see.
If it is to be done every 2 weeks, it can be done either before, during, or after this meeting, because it happens every 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But scheduler, yeah, also.
Yeah. I also think like it might be good to do it every 4 weeks, so that if we have other stuff, we could do like 3 other things, between each one or something. Yeah. I don't know if we're gonna have other stuff or not. That's a thought. Let's see. There's the burning question at the very top of this agenda. How do we get Backdrop in other places? Like, how do we reach out to communities that aren't our own? I don't know if anyone has any new ideas about that. Usually we talk about all of our old ideas of the things we're already doing, but maybe we should take a minute to talk about things we aren't already doing.
I'm usually an advocate for that, so I should step up and produce, huh?
Well, I don't know. I mean, if you don't have any ideas this week, we can talk about it next meeting, but I just think it would be good to continue to kind of think outside the box. Last week was OSCON, up in Portland. And I think it would be great if we could get something like Backdrop to be more prominently featured at open source events.
Yes.
I don't know that there are a lot of open source events, but I think in general, OSCON's a good one. It was super expensive to actually sponsor, but they have some like nonprofit tables they give away. I think I asked them to be added to that mailing list next year, but I'm not entirely sure that'll work. So I don't know how to get on the, I don't know how to ask for that. Someone will have to, maybe watch the website and try and figure out. But I think there are opportunities like that if we just know where to look for them.
Maybe better than even open source events would be like nonprofit tech events, right? There's obviously the big national event. I know in Minnesota has at least an annual nonprofit tech event that's fairly sizable. I think a couple hundred people. So maybe looking for those kind of events would be.
I was about to suggest that because our target audience is people that own organizations like that.
Right.
So yeah.
But I think like other events would be a good thing.
Okay, that's a good idea.
You're right. And it's like, what are those other events? And having a list of them. But part of the problem, right, is we don't have a budget for that. So we're making individual choices. Like you and I and others, like, what are we going to go to?
Yeah.
So it's not like we're selflessly making a decision that we're going to go to this event that we aren't otherwise maybe excited about, just because that's where Backdrop should be.
Yeah.
If that's going to take away from going to an event that we're excited about.
Well, I think that it's good, Chris, to keep an idea like of what's local, right? Because for me, it would be really easy to attend an event in San Francisco because I wouldn't have to travel or stay in a hotel or whatever. And Tim, if you have a good one in Twin Cities, that's a nonprofit, like that's kind of a thing where if we can find a way that it doesn't take like travel budget, where we have people who are local who might want to attend anyway, that could be good. But yeah, we don't have any budget for any event stuff now, and we do a lot of attending Drupal events anyway, so it makes sense for us to like evangelize Backdrop while we're there, but it doesn't serve the need of the larger community outreach. It's like, Backdrop's meant for Drupal people, so it does that, but there's a lot more people we could be reaching. But yeah, so I think just for me personally, I don't have those other events in mind because I've lived in the Drupal event world for so long. But I think that trying to get on some of these mailing lists or just staying more in touch with nonprofit tech communities in our local area, for me personally, I'm interested in that anyway. I just need to figure out how to do it.
Well, exactly. And I share that interest, but just the inertia keeps me going to Drupal events instead of these other events. So
yeah,
I think so. Something I've been thinking a bit about lately that's a bigger topic than we can talk about today. I'm going to throw it out here though, is thinking about organization. I mean, I think one of the things that the way probably a lot of open source communities and certainly our community is working is everybody's doing a little bit of everything. And I think any large volunteer organization or campaign or anything would be more structured. And I don't know what attempts have been made in the past in open source communities to do that. Part of it is resources and part of it is because we're all volunteers, but who is the person who's thinking about this, right? Thinking about outreach to other communities and reports back every week. It's I would say yes to that, but then I will say yes to the next 5 things. And then we're back to where we started, where I'm really not focused. I'm just doing a little bit of everything. So I don't know. I'd just like to throw out there that that's something I think thinking about, are we at a size of the community where we need to think about structuring ourselves in a little bit differently to better focus on things.
So I just Googled Melbourne nonprofit events.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a few governance essentials training for nonprofit organizations in Melbourne.
Perfect.
But yeah, but the thing is that I don't know if it's a paid event or not. It's that I found those on Eventbrite and other upcoming events, so I could do some of these. Like I could take a day off from work if it's on a weekday,
Right.
and maybe present there, like if you're, because there's also for not only for nonprofits but for small business as well. It says digital strategies for small business and nonprofits, free business training. But maybe these are targeted, as in they're created by other people to promote their product or services or whatever. So I'm not sure if and how I can hook up. But now that we're discussing this, I'll look it up. It's kind of bad timing now. I'm going away for like 6 weeks, so yeah, maybe while I'm away I can contact a few people.
Tim, though, to your point about like trying to find some way to structure and organize volunteers, I think obviously what we need right now, we have a lot of things we want to do and we only have so many volunteers. And so that's part of the problem, is that, we're all a little unfocused because we're all trying to do everything. But I think you're right. I think if we had something just like written down that was like a vision of like, this is what we'd like, people might fall into that a little bit more easily than right now, where if you try and do everything all the time, we're going to end up sort of in a burnout situation. Right. Whereas if we're like, look, these are the things, these are the way we want to organize. We want to have like some people that go to events and evangelize. We want to have some people that like write blog posts and evangelize. We want to have some people that, I don't know, run the meetings or something, right? I think it might be helpful to have like clear jobs, and say like, if you want to own, outside community, whatever, you can make that into whatever you want it to be. You still have the freedom to, volunteer in whatever way you want, but at least like this is a position that we are going to need help with. And I think like everybody who works in the open source community already knows how to do the code part of it. And what we need to do is write down everything else.
Sure. Let me give some examples. There was a guy who I talked to at DrupalCon who specifically, when I heard I was doing Backdrop, was all excited and said, "Oh yeah, you got to invite me to one of your meetings because I'd love to come and help out." And I am super, in one, he doesn't need an invitation, and I told him that, but what he was basically asking was to be reminded. I'm really embarrassed to say it's now 4 months later, and I've yet to follow up with him. Another quick example was and I think this is perfect for the outreach. When we think about different ways of doing things, the scenario with this module a couple weeks ago, the block background color one, I think you commented on the issue. I don't know if you saw my issue in Drupal.org. We talked about this yesterday in Gitter, but I was looking for a module like that. I found the Drupal one. I went through the process. I started the upgrade, the port, the little bit I could do, created a project, put a note in the backdrop contrib. I put a note in the Drupal issue saying, "Hey, I want to port this. If you're interested in helping me, that would be great." And then I went about my business. And 10 days later, I got a note from him that he'd ported it.
Huh.
And then I went back and I said, "Oh, and by the way, if you'd like to help maintain it, we'd be open to that."
He's interested.
I'm not taking this away from you. And he followed up and said, "Yeah, I'm interested." And what that story tells me is that somebody focused on just sort of reaching out and asking people and following up with them. Now, I plan to follow up with this guy because he may not. So I told him he had to go through the application process. And I think it was my mentioning that triggered Herb Duell to do the little web form. It was like, oh, I think that just sort of reminded him of like, we need a better way to onboard people.
You mean Doc Wilmot, you mean?
Or Doc Wilmot, you're right. The little web form mock-up he did. Anyways, my point is that a lot of this kind of work, the following up, there's a lot of people out there that have said, "Hey, we want to help," would help if we just, reached out to them once in a while or reminded them. And I just don't think we're doing a good job of that, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't have a solution to that. And it's like, I feel like it's something that I could do and would love to volunteer for, but I have limited volunteer time. And I keep getting sucked into other things that I want to do as well. So that's the difficulty. And I think that you all can relate to that, right? We're all having that same problem. It's like, if I could only spend time on this one thing, how valuable that would be. but I just, that's not as much fun.
Yeah, I mentioned this before. We shouldn't be frustrated by the amount of to-do things that we have to do. It just means that our lives will never be boring. We always have something to, and because we love it, like we always go back to it and we can pick. It's just that we don't have enough hands on deck at the moment, and that is natural. I think as the community organically grows, people will come along, and it's good that we have a list and just some tasks around so that people can pick up and help with.
Yeah.
We shouldn't get frustrated about the amount of work there is. We'll slowly get there.
I think though that we have a really good list of like bugs, but we don't have a really good list of all of the other things.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what we need to figure out is we have on our contribute page, there's like a couple of vague things like, oh, we could use some help with this, we could use some help with that. What might be good is to like think about the actual things we want people doing, like attend events, all these other things, and make one page on backdropcms.org that's like, here are all the things that we need help with that don't involve coding. And then on that contribute page, be like, want to contribute in more substantial ways that don't involve coding, here's another page. And then we can have that documented too. That other page could do things like linked issue queues, like here's all of the blog post issue, or here's the whatever. So that if somebody who's non-technical and doesn't spend a bunch of time on GitHub wants to contribute, they can come through that way and get to the right place. So I feel like right now we don't, we say things amorphously like write a blog post, but there isn't like here's a list of ideas, like all of that stuff that you need in order to actually write a blog post. And I don't think we have links there that drive people to that information either. So I think that would be good. It's just, we look at this every week and we're like, oh, there's so much stuff to do, but this stuff isn't noted anywhere anyone can find it other than people attending this meeting.
Right. So I've been thinking, following along the thoughts I've been having, just in terms of volunteer management. Again, I think there are so many people that will say, hey, just tell me when you need help, and then they wait and wait and wait. Maybe it's not, ideal, but we don't have a good way to follow up. And one of the things that's occurred to me is even like this guy, this guy who's volunteering to be a maintainer, the ways of communicating with him, like through issue queues, isn't always the most effective way of communicating with volunteers.
Yep.
And like, I think any other, outside of open source, any kind of volunteer organization would keep a database of people who volunteered with contact information, what they're interested in. And so when you have a need, you don't just throw a note out into Twitter and hope that the volunteer from 6 months ago sees it. You go into your database and you say, oh, okay, we've got several people here who volunteer to help with this kind of thing, and you can reach out to them. Is that something that we're even that we could do? I mean,
I think that you just described CiviCRM.
Yeah, we have a CiviCRM instance up somewhere that I think Luke started working on. But the problem with setting up a CRM instance is that you kind of have to have like a plan and a vision ahead of time as to what the end goal will be. And then you have to know Civi enough how to get there. Sort of like Drupal, right? Like I want a website isn't good enough. You need to be like, I need these content types with these fields, and then have to know how to get it done. And that was sort of my experience with Civi, where I was like, oh, maybe it'll be like a good enough starting point that I can, dump in the people from the MailChimp list and add them as like, divide them into groups. Like these are the people who made donations, and these are the people who just signed up through the website. And then we could have another option for volunteer, right? And if somebody checked that box on their profile, they would get moved into a list. So we could have other ways to do that. But I don't know how to set up the tool that manages that, which I think is sort of what we're waiting for. There's also, in terms of like cost benefit analysis, like, we're in a chicken and egg thing, right? We're like, right now we don't have enough, we don't have anyone who's checked that box to volunteer. We have lots of people who would if it existed.
Yep.
And so it's the kind of thing where it's like, okay, well, if I spend, an entire weekend working with a guy front who knows CiviCRM to teach me how to do this, or girl, how do I, and then we're done, then what? Like, are we going to benefit from that huge amount of effort, or should my effort be done somewhere else? I mean, eventually we would. So it's not like wasted time, but it's hard to prioritize. I think without the immediate, we can see it right there. So I agree we need it. I don't know.
Can we think, like, Luke has not been around for like a couple of weeks or more now. Can we think
Luke
on the
tried
status?
it, and he also got stuck at the point where he needs a vision.
Okay.
right? He got it installed and running to the point where it was there, but then what to do with it?
If we have a ticket then with goals, because the way that I see it is like get people in the tool in that as a database, and then ask them what they're willing, the ones that are volunteers, what they're willing to volunteer. Some people are going to be designers, some people going to be front enders, back enders, like coders. So if we manage to sort of like group them into that and then get tasks for each group, then we can send emails and say, hey, we need help with this.
I have a suggestion moving forward. So have you talked to Luke recently? Because I haven't heard from him.
I haven't heard from him.
But he's been interested in this task, and you said he started to play with CiviCRM. I'm also, I mean, I have been telling myself that I need to spin up CiviCRM with Backdrop just to see what it's doing and where it's at.
I think
That's an interest of mine. What I'm going to suggest is that like Luke and I, and maybe at most one other person, because I don't want to fragment the rest of us any more than that, set up a subcommittee. But it's a small subcommittee with a specific focus of like, let's figure out and meet on our own, set aside, because that's what helps me is to have some time blocked off. And, I'd be happy to reach out to Luke and say, hey, do you have some time for you and I to get on the phone and talk about this particular problem? And see, and then we can come back to this group.
I think that maybe Luke at some point, because no one else was working on it, maybe he just sort of like left it. But if, Jen, are you aware if we did set up like a server for the CiviCRM and a setup? Are you aware of that?
Yeah, there should be a civi.backdropcms.org.
Okay, cool.
And it's installed, like running, but not built. Like
Okay.
a brand new Drupal site, right, where it doesn't have anything there yet. It's sort of like this Civi setup that doesn't have anything there yet.
Okay, so then if I imagine that Luke already has access to it, then the next step would be to get Tim access to it. So if Tim starts playing with it and you get stuck, he's probably going to be like, hey, look, did you try this? Did you figure that out? So it would be a way of poking each other, to just move forward with that.
Yeah.
Whereas now there's only one person that has access to it, and it gets forgotten, or he moves to more interesting or more pressing stuff.
Yeah.
And we can do our work in, the backdrop.org, get issue queue and try to keep issues there so others can.
For example, I know it sounds interesting, but I wouldn't want to be involved in that because I don't know, my time is like I volunteer for so many things and then I don't have enough time for them. But
I have clients who I think would benefit from a Backdrop CiviCRM thing, and I just haven't had the time or taken the time to look at it. So this serves a dual purpose for me right now. Okay. I think we should I'm going to say one more thing on structure and sort of volunteer management, right? This could be the first step towards, and I'm modeling. I think we need to get away from, meetings that everybody feels like they should go to and trying to maybe have more like subgroups, like, maybe the outreach committee, ideally 6 months from now, it isn't just 2 weeks, everybody talking about everything, but there's, 2 or 3 committees of 2 or 3 people that are working on projects. And then we just get together at the outreach meeting to update. This is where we get back and we update. And
I think that sounds great. And I think another thing that might be useful, Tim, is if every one of these subcommittees just had one designated evangelist. Like, for example, if you wanted to evangelize this CiviCRM thing,
Right.
You could then take the ability to be like, okay, I'm going to reach out to Luke and try and set up a meeting next week. And then 2 weeks from now, if you're at this meeting, you'd be like, hey, I met with Luke. This is what we talked about.
Mhm.
It would be very similar to what we're doing with the core issues, where if nothing happens, that's fine. But at least we have someone who's like, I'm trying to push this forward, and you can do whatever you want. Like, it still gives you the freedom to, like, you don't have to have a regular meeting set up with Luke and Gregory or whoever to talk about it. I think that would be great.
Yep. Okay. We should probably move on.
Okay. What else should we talk about? Let's see.
Okay, let me throw out another thing that's a different thing on the agenda.
Sure.
Videos, that keeps coming up. So
Yes.
2 weeks ago, I sat down, got screencasting stuff and worked out, and I started a video. I did a video, and my intention was to do a couple more fairly quickly. And I haven't got back to that, and part of it is what we already talked about, the wanting to do 8 different things. But part of it is I've actually tried, and Gregory, I just want to update you guys on what's happening and the implications of all of this. You mentioned all of the little bug reports that are coming in. I think I've been responsible for a few of them. And part of them has been like when I sit down to do these videos, I just say, okay, I'm going to do field blocks, and so I might sit down and walk through what I'm going to do once myself. And what I'm finding is that inevitably I get about 5 steps in and I find a bug. and then because I'm really paying attention, right? And it's not like when I'm doing work where it's like, oh, I can just ignore this and move on. I don't want to move on. I'm doing backdrop stuff anyways. I might as well report this. So I don't know. I'm sharing this a bit as an anecdote, but also that I like field blocks is the next video I want to do, and I've actually started working on it, but then I've gotten distracted by these bugs, which I think is an equally good use of my time. But that's one of the things. So hopefully we'll get some more videos out soon. And in the meantime, also some more bug reports.
So the thing is, the rabbit holes that I was talking about, there you go.
Right, yes.
So rabbit holes and distractions, but these are pleasant things for me at least. Like,
Yeah.
One thing is that no matter how small the video, like even 5 or 10 minutes, shouldn't underestimate it, because it takes multiple times that time to get it done.
Yes.
Be it preparation or multiple takes because you got it wrong, or because you found a problem, as you said, and then you have to go a few steps back and trace it, or file issues or what have you.
Right.
So it is, as I said, we'll get there.
But I feel like I've got the tools in place now. I've got the desire to do these. I have some self-interest in doing them, but and it's. I feel like it's also resulting in these other useful things, like uncovering some of these simple but nuisance-y bugs.
Yep.
So another idea on that is if you find old YouTube videos of Drupal tutorials, like Drupal 7 tutorials, where people mention like using 3 or 4 modules and configuring things here and there, but we have it in core or anything like that, you create a video for that, and then you go into that YouTube video and say, hey guys, just if you want to know, there's 3 steps that you can easily do that in Backdrop. Just here's the video.
Excellent idea.
I know, but there's more ideas. All those ideas. No time for it. Yeah.
So I do exactly the same thing, Tim. Sometimes when we're doing training, we'll run into a bug like that. And so at the end of the training class, I have like an entire sheet of paper that's like, oh, we should fix this, or we should add that, or we should whatever. And then at the end of the week, I'm like, okay, I just generated like 15 more issues for Backdrop. But I think it's good. And it also, not only does it get that stuff fixed, but it, even if you catch that in a video, I think that's also something that could be really valuable. We'd be like, I do this. Oh, okay, found a bug. I'll create an issue. And then then someone could be like, how to create an issue and how to set up field blocks. I don't know, that might make it too long, but.
So the thing is that even Drupal, I'm looking at this now, I won't go into D7 or whatever. It's like 21,000 plus open issues at this point. And we inheritedly got that product, right? We fixed like 1,000 or whatever, but there's still way many more. So you'll be discovering. This is another thing that is natural, and it's like it shouldn't frustrate you. Like I actually find interest in that.
No, that by itself doesn't frustrate.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think sometimes people who aren't familiar with the way open source works will look at something like that and be like, oh my gosh, you have 3,000 open issues. And it's like, well, look at how many things the software does correctly. Like there's way more than like 300,000 things that it does right. And then they're like, oh, okay. So this is complicated software, and it works pretty well considering all of the stuff that it does. So most of those issues are, non-fatal errors. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. And and out of the 21,000 that I said open issues, only less than 10,000 is like bugs. The other ones are feature requests or questions. So it's the same with us.
Yeah. And
because as developers, we tend to sort of like break things into smaller tasks because that's how it works, and it makes our life easier.
Right.
And we have follow-up issues and stuff like that. It's not like a single ticket fix everything.
Yeah, we only got one bug.
Yeah, make it perfect.
Fix all the things.
Yes. Okay.
I also, Tim, that's something where it's in my mind, like, maybe I should do it before Hangouts goes away. But I have like all these things where like, oh, I really want to show people this and backed up, and then I just never get to actually making it. But yeah, there is like kind of a process involved there that is a little bit of a hurdle.
Do you guys have in your local communities mentoring, like regular mentoring sessions, Drupal mentoring sessions?
Like user groups or?
So like in Melbourne, in Australia in general, we have the Sydney meetups, the Melbourne meetups, but besides the meetups, we also have mentoring groups, which is like regular, like every Saturday or every second Saturday, people gather together, and it's like people that have never touched Drupal before, and there's a couple of people that are knowledgeable, and they just sort of like organize these events. They go to usually the place is a library, like a public library or something, and people get into a computer room and they just, discuss. It might be people thinking of building a new site, or ones that have one Drupal site, and maybe they're, I don't know, small IT, one-man IT group that has been handed a Drupal site and he wants to learn how to sort of like maintain it, things like that. Do you have such groups, such activities in your local communities?
I don't think we have anything like that. I know in the Twin Cities area, there used to be something like that.
Yeah, we have done stuff like that off and on. I've been thinking about starting sort of a play with backdrop group that's just meant to be sort of like that, where it's sort of informal and it's at least once a month or every 2 weeks. And I know one or two, there's at least two other local people that are interested in playing with backdrop. And I think if we started doing something regular, we'd bring in some more. So.
Yeah, it's like grab a coffee, come on a Saturday morning, not very early, but not, ruin just 1 hour of your day. So this is how I attended actually one or two of them, but then the level of I was looking to learn more than to contribute, and the people that were attending were people that were not exposed to Drupal before, so I wasn't learning anything out of it. I was hoping, but yeah, I don't know. I got drawn into more interesting stuff.
Sure.
So I stopped going there.
I think that we used to have events. There was a space in Oakland where people used to have a meetup that was devoted to mentorship. But it was a while ago. I think like we used to have 7 Drupal meetups every month, and now we have 1, maybe 2. And so I think just there isn't the same number of concentrated people in order to have events like that anymore. But I always thought, so ours were usually like 2 hours, and it was often like Wednesday after work, and pizza was provided or something. So it was like, bring your questions, we'll chat over pizza, bring your computers if you want to stay after pizza and look at something, there will be people here to help you. So it's sort of a really casual thing. And I thought it was really great. I went a couple of times as a mentor, and then one time there wasn't anyone there who needed to learn anything. And so I just started talking to the organizer about a problem I was having, and then I ended up getting mentored, and I'm like, this is amazing. So I just love how that happens, where you end up.
I admire people that have this skill of, I don't know, finding sponsors, which would be like, I don't know, small sandwich or coffee shops, and they say, "Oh, can you sponsor this event? It's going to be just only 10 people, but it's going to be your logo or whatever." But I just don't have the, I don't know, energy, time, or interest in doing that. But I admire people that do that, and if I could find one person that I could hook on, like, I'll say, look, I'll do the presentation, all the helping, but you have to organize it, the rest of the stuff, then I would be interested to do that.
One of the things I preach is don't get hung up on the organizing. Just find a coffee shop with a big enough table and say, we're going to meet there. Don't worry about sponsorships. Don't worry about, if you get those. Sometimes I start to organize that way, and then somebody steps up and says, oh, come on over to our place and we'll pay for pizza. Well, great. But
yeah,
I don't like wait till I got the pizza before I plan it. Let's just meet at an open bar or coffee shop and hack. That was my first hackathon I organized in the Twin Cities. I just identified a coffee shop, and I said, 2 weeks from Saturday, I'm going to be hacking in this coffee shop. Anybody wants to come and join me, they can. And we had about 4 or 5 people show up.
Yeah, that would be an interesting idea. Maybe I'll just do that at some point. One thing that before we go to the dev meeting that was brought up on Gitter was by you, I think, mentioning backdrop in the Drupal Slack.
Oh, you're going to go there.
Yes, I was going to go there. So my handle in the local Drupal Slack thing is the backdrop CMS guy. I'm not sure if you were following, Jen. So
No.
have you seen? So Tim brought up during this week, I think it was, that should we try to reach people in the official Drupal Slack channel? And I was saying,
should we have a black backdrop channel, or should
yes,
we ask about? It was inspired by the fact that, like, Lando, Symfony, all these, there's a number of backdrop channels that are devoted to tools that Drupal developers use.
Yeah.
Backdrop is a little bit not the same.
Yeah.
It's not that far off, and I wasn't suggesting we do anything unilaterally, and I'm not suggesting that we replace our regular, channel, but that there be a space. And my initial thought is just to, like, casually mention it to some of the organizers and see if they would object. Or
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea, but we should be cautious.
Yeah.
Right.
I also think it's a good idea, but I am not going to ask.
Right.
But Tim, I like your idea of casually mentioning it and see what happens.
I don't want to, like, go just out of the blue to somebody. I feel like it's like I know a number of the people who are organizers there, and it's like at some point I'm just hoping that I'm in a conversation with them and can bring this up.
So I know a few of the guys either by name or met them in one of the Drupal events, Drupal South, that happens here. And when there was the Gold Coast, whatever it was, the meetup, when I mentioned, hey guys, would you like to see a presentation on Backdrop? There were a few people that said, yeah, okay, yeah, we don't mind. But there was one person that I was actually, he was Aussie, but he's for years now has moved to the US, so he was not even locally involved. He was just sort of like monitoring what was happening on the channel. And he says, that's a Drupal event. I don't want to see anything else than Drupal. And it's like, it was a bit abrupt, but he was polite after all. He says, no, we shouldn't do anything different. So that's why I say it's a
Be like, it is Drupal, just as a different name.
But I didn't want to get into that. It's like, I was like, okay, fine. And I did get invited to do the talk after all. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else to discuss?
We were a bit scattered today, but I think we brought up some important stuff. So,
Yeah, I took some notes.
I think I'll connect with Luke, and that's for me the big takeaway. If we start working on the Civi CRM thing.
Yeah. If you do get that set up, Tim, I have a couple of separate lists. Like right now in MailChimp, we only have a list. It's just like all of the people, but I also have like a separate list of like who originally gave us money, which I think it would be good to track those separately so that we can,
right,
send thank you messages or whatever.
Yeah, I still did not get a definitive answer from my accountant with regards to donating at the end of the financial year, if that's deducted. And it's not only for my benefit. It's just I could tell other people like, hey, if you wanna, donate at the end of the year, you can donate to this.
So let me bring up another quick. We have a few minutes.
Yeah.
Another tool thing that I'm not sure what the best process for is, but Herb Duell brought up yesterday, a Gitter again, like, is there a better tool? And I don't know if you saw this, Jen, but he suggested this, what's it called? It's not Zulip, which is Zulip. It's an open source chat platform. They will host it for free for open source groups. Jen is frozen, so I don't know if we lost her. Can you hear us?
Jen,
you're frozen. I think we might have lost her.
No, I see. It was you that was frozen.
Anyways, I don't think we should make any hasty decisions on something like that, but Herb and I suggested that maybe, well, first of all, we both logged in, created accounts in their sort of sandbox, and we're chatting with each other. I think it would be a bit, it's initially struck me as a little bit ugly, but frankly, Gitter did as well when I first got here.
Yeah.
It has a lot of features. I think it would be a much more powerful tool. It's much closer to Slack but it's open source.
Does it integrate with GitHub in the same way where you can see like the issues and stuff?
As it has GitHub integrations, the what we were looking at doesn't show like the tickets. I would be surprised if we couldn't do something like that.
Yeah.
I think if we moved into a new tool like that, we could sort of rebuild the chatbot and get it working rather than trying to fix. I looked at the chatbot for Gitter is not the Hubot. It's not getting any attention.
Oh no, we just updated it.
Well, it's okay. My experience in like looking it up and researching it was that there wasn't much work.
Oh, you mean in the open source project itself?
In the open source for the chatbot.
Okay.
Not for Gitter.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I thought you meant Brass. I'm like, we just fixed it last week.
Did we fix the plus thing or not?
Oh, we tried.
Yeah.
We're working on it.
Right.
So is it updated to the latest version now and restarted?
I don't know if it's restarted, but we did update it. We got Jeff access to the code base, and everyone's keys are on the server, so we can restart it now if we know how.
So. To wrap this Zulip thing up, I think to me it could be an outreach thing, just in that I don't think Gitter is a very welcoming tool. But I think that the process, I would recommend that the process for something like this be that, especially where they're we can host it with them for free, which means that'll keep messages forever. You can run a bunch of channels. It has a lot more. You can do emojis and respond to. I think a lot of features that Slack has that we don't have. And I would just think, let's set up an instance of it. I saw you set up a Slack instance for Backdrop, right? Just to play with it. And I say we do the same thing with Zulip. We invite 6 or 7 of us. We just play with it a bit on the side and for a few weeks and then come back to this.
So I think if we were going to choose another tool, it would probably be Slack, just because everybody is already on Slack.
Right.
And I think that the reason that Gitter was attractive to us is because everybody could use their GitHub user accounts and it integrated with GitHub. But I think any service that requires like system work to get integration working that's not Slack isn't going to work. It's like the same reason like we could have hosted our software project on any other place, but we put it on GitHub because everyone's on GitHub. I think that's the reason people are moving to Slack, because everybody's already on Slack. You don't have to have another app open. You don't have to do whatever. The one thing that another thing I really liked about Gitter too that we should check if we are going to look about is you have to be able to like access it in a browser without needing anything else. And so GitHub, you're already in your browser. You click the link, now you're in a live chat thing. I think is super good for getting new people on board. I don't know if Slack can provide that.
Right. And Zulip can.
Okay, good.
Zulip does that. Zulip also has login from GitHub.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Have you looked into Rocketchat?
No.
So the Amazy guys, the company that we sort of like my agency works with, like in the GovCMS project, they are really heavily orientated towards open source, and although I can't remember the reasons, they mentioned to us that we have replaced Slack with Rocketchat.
Okay.
I'll get a link on Gitter for you to see. It's like it is beautiful, and it seems that it has a big community around it, and it is open source and trusted by Red Hat, Samsung, and big companies. So,
well, we always get some pushback with Slack because there are people who hate it and also that want to stay with open source, and that's why I probably wouldn't have even like expended emotional energy on proposing a new chat platform if it wasn't open source, just because I don't want to have that fight. Not that I feel strongly about it, but
yeah, I feel very conflicted because I also feel strongly about open source, but I don't want to do something that's not like changing. If we change anything, we're going to lose people just because change does that. And so I would want to make sure that where we're changing to is going to get people, right? And so if we move to Slack, we'd be like, oh, I'm already on Slack. No problem. Like, I don't want to use Slack, but I have to be on Slack because of all of my other things. I feel like every developer is sort of in that thing where it's like,
right,
you're on it anyway, whether you like it or not. And well, so that's a win, just because you're already there.
I hear you. I think we would gain people by moving to this just because it's more open in some ways. Like, I think one of the problems with Gitter right now is we have a channel. And like when it gets busy, it's like you can't follow anything because you know, if Gregory and I start going back and forth for 20 minutes, it's like anything else that happened in the last 24 hours gets pushed so far back.
But that's not a problem with our service. That's just how chat works.
No, it's because everything is in one channel. There's
Well,
no
we have a lot of channels. Like if you want channels, you can have channels. That's not a limit of our software. That's just how you're using it.
Yeah, the thing is that with Gitter, the way that I understand it is that its GitHub repo gives you a channel, right? So if you want different channel, unless you do private messages between people,
it's possible.
Yeah, you can have as many channels as you want. Like
Okay.
the channel that we're using now is a channel that was added. Like it gives you one channel per. It gives you 3 channels per repository. There's like a general and then I don't know, whatever. But you can add as many more as you want to any group. So if we need more channels, we can add more channels. The reason we're using one channel is because we didn't want to have a bunch of channels that were quiet.
Yeah, right. No, I get that, but I feel like the way Gitter has channels set up, it would be harder to get multi-channels going without losing people. I think the way Zulip is set up is like Slack, where you just have, we're in a backdrop environment. There are no other channels. They're all backdrop, but we can have as many channels as we want in there, and it's much easier to sort of just be aware of
I think maybe, Tim, we should do a screen share because I don't see any difference between GitHub and Slack, or Gitter and Slack, in terms of channel management. And so I would like to see what you're seeing that you think that it's going to be hard.
Hard isn't the word. I mean, I'm talking like hard for people to it's not technically hard. I understand it's trivial to set up another channel.
No, I just mean changing channels to use it.
Yeah.
Right? It's exactly the same as Slack, so I don't understand what you're finding difficult about. Like, I don't see, I want to see what you're seeing. Like, I want you to point through it because to me, it's exactly the same. And I think that anyone using any chat service would have the same experience.
I mean, I would do that same experiment alongside either something like Slack or Zulip, so you can see the difference right between them, like in how channels work between those two. Because again, it's not that it's hard in Gitter. I think it's just done differently in both Slack and Zulip in a way that encourages the way it feels to me like Slack and Zulip encourage you to create new channels. Gitter doesn't encourage me to do it. It's easy, but it feels like I'm going away. I don't know, but yeah, we could talk about that later.
Yeah, it might be just a UI thing, like maybe it's a different color or something, and that makes it feel different. But I don't know. I want to see what it looks like from here. Because are you using the app or using the browser?
I mostly use the app.
Okay. So yeah, it might just look different. And also because I'm an admin of the group,
yeah,
I might get like a plus button where you don't get one, which might also be something like, but it functions exactly the same way. So I just don't understand. So I need to see what you're seeing.
Yeah,
Okay.
I use the web API. I use an app that sort of like bundles everything together, Slack and everything, and it goes through the web API. So I guess I'm using the web app as well. And I recently discovered that I have the ability to delete other people's comments.
Ooh.
I'm not sure. Maybe I'm an admin, but if I'm not, then it's worrisome. I don't know if you guys.
Are you using Franz?
I'm using I used to use a thing that was called Franz, yes, but it's been 2 or 3 weeks now that I've switched to Station.
Okay.
Which is the same thing, but just more frequent updates and a bigger community around it.
I used to do that, but then I couldn't do like Slack calls on it. So I had to switch to using the Slack app. And like, well, if I'm using the Slack app, then all my other chats are just Gitter. So I started using the Gitter app. But I would love to.
Yeah. I have that because it's just, I have Slack, Skype, Gitter, Hangouts, what have you.
Too
so
many.
Yeah, Teams, Microsoft Teams, yes. So I just use this app to have the whole thing together, consolidated. Yep. Okay.
We're 5 minutes into dev meeting time.
Yep. We should
change gears. But Tim, are you going to be around after the dev meeting?
I can be up.
Okay, just for 5 minutes, I want you to show me what you see on Gitter, so I understand.
Sure.
Okay. All right, I'm going to drop off and start the other meeting.
Okay, cool. See you in a minute.